Hello everyone, I'm Prakriti Dumaru, a PhD candidate at Utah State University, and I will be presenting this paper. I feel like he's looking in the computer world to be social, but I can't trust his judgment. Reimagining parental control for children with ASD. Autism Spectrum Disorder, ASD, is characterized by differing cognitive styles, where individuals have restricted interests and repetitive behaviors. This leads to difficulties for them in social interaction. Hence, in order to help children with ASD deal with overstimulation from social interaction, parents often use devices like smartphones, tablets. As a result, they are more fixated on devices compared to their neurotypical peers. And due to overfixation on devices, they are exposed to inappropriate contents. To this end, prior research indicates that parents often take restrictive approach with their children to regulate their technology use. However, it results into externalizing behaviors like meltdowns. Now, let us understand why restrictive mediation doesn't work with children on the spectrum. First, due to their nature of seeking logical reasoning behind rules set by parents, they cannot blindly follow the rules. Second, even if they want to follow the rules, due to executive functioning disorder, children with ASD have difficulties with self regulation. This presents an opportunity towards redesigning parental control tools for children with ASD. In response to children's need for logical reasoning behind rules, parents need to have open communication with them to explain the rationales behind rules, such as explaining to them why they are not allowed to watch certain types of videos on YouTube. Similarly, with respect to executive functioning disorder, parental guidance is crucial in instilling self regulation among the children. As we come up with two design principles for redesigning parental control tools, we map them into our initial version of low fidelity prototype design on the top of Google's parental control app, Family Link. In particular, we considered four different controls related to screen time, YouTube, Google Photos, and location tracking. Next, we will see the screenshots of how we mapped the two principles into our designs. To fulfill children's need for logical reasoning, we provided informational support for parents where they can get specific context for discussion with their children. For example, in the context of YouTube, they were provided with the insights into videos watched by children, such as thumbnail image, title, number of times the video is watched, and duration. So, whenever parents notice that their children are watching an inappropriate video, they can initiate conversation with them by sending a reminder. Similarly, in the context of location, parents can get information about previous locations visited by their children. This can serve as a starting point for discussion about their children's whereabouts. In instilling self-regulation, we provided opportunities for parents to nudge children towards expected behavior in different contexts. For instance, we introduced chores-based screen time where parents can specify a list of chores for children to complete in order to get screen time, or they can revoke the screen time if it is not completed. In the context of location, parents can set boundaries by specifying safe zones for their children, where children are expected to be within the set time range. Finally, in the case of Google Photos, to prevent sharing of photos containing personal information, parents can prompt their children to look out for the list of personal information set by them, such as vehicle license plate number. Now, let's get a brief overview of two user studies we conducted with our designs. In the first phase, we conducted focus group session with ASD experts to refine our design so that it would better work for children with ASD. Then, in the second phase, we conducted semi-structured interviews with parents to evaluate the updated designs. Moving forward, we will talk about each phase, their respective methodology, and findings in sequence. We conducted two focus group sessions, each with 3 ASD experts over Zoom, to gather the feedback on our initial designs and identify new features that can work for children with ASD. The experts had at least 10 years of research experience in the field of ASD. In our sessions, we used Google Jamboard as our remote collaboration tool. The session took between 90 and 120 minutes, and we compensated them with a $25 Amazon gift card upon completion. Now let us understand how we conducted the focus group session. In the first part, we showed our initial design to the expert, where they got familiar with the features and then discuss about how it would fit into the context of children with ASD or what changes might be needed to make it better work for them. Then, in the second part, the experts were involved in brainstorming exercises, where we instructed them to write down or sketch their ideas related to our two design principles individually. Later, they presented and discussed the ideas among the group. Next, we will see what changes we made in our existing design and new designs that we have created based on recommendations from the expert. As we mentioned earlier, we come up with chore-based screen time in our initial design. However, experts emphasize that setting behavioral goals such as deep breathing exercise, communicating with friends might be more important for children with ASD. While in an initial design, we provided an option to send an alert to the children before screen time comes to an end, experts emphasize that they need to send multiple notifications for children with ASD so that it eases their transition from device usage to other tasks. Let's say like before 15 minutes, 5 minutes, and 1 minute. In the context of YouTube, experts mentioned that sending reminder to children to have open communication about inappropriate videos they watch that might be emotionally triggering. So we updated our design to put self-reminder for parents themselves rather than sending it to the children. Next, we will talk about some of the new designs that we come up with based on the recommendations from the expert. The first one is tips for open communication. Experts mention that children with ASD are more trusting in nature, which makes them vulnerable. So, as shown in this screenshot, it is important to have proactive open communication with them about topics such as how to identify bullying, not sharing personal information, in order to guide them in grasping social cues. In the context of Google Photos, expert pointed out that children might need to be prompted multiple times to inspect personal information in a photo before sharing it. So as highlighted, we come up with the feature of setting repetition frequency by parents that is tied up to a particular personal information. Next, we will discuss about using those updated designs in creating storyboard, which we used in semi-structured interviews with parents. This is the overview of steps from initial design to storyboard development for one of our storyboard. Highlighted is the screenshot of one of the initial designs for screen time, focusing on the principle of instilling self-regulation. This is another screenshot of the updated design based on focus group discussion with the expert. Finally, this is the storyboard, which includes our updated design as one of the main components. Altogether, we had 4 storyboards corresponding to the 4 control, plus 1 new storyboard based on the suggestions from the expert. Now, let us talk about our study with 25 parents who have children with ASD. We recruited participants by reaching out to multiple special education schools, posting our recruitment message in autism support group in social media, and snowball sampling. In our interviews, we used storyboard as interview stimuli, where each participant was assigned 2 storyboard. Our interview questions focused on 2 parts as shown in this slide. First, their challenges around regulating device usage by the children with ASD, and second, how the design presented in the storyboard would improve their parental mediation experience. Upon completion of the study, we provided them with a $25 Amazon gift card and we performed thematic analysis on our transcript. This is the demographics of 25 parents. All our participants are female in the age range of 25 to 49, and most of their children are on the level 1 ASD. Now, let us talk about our first research question, some of the challenges in regulating device uses. The first challenge reported by parents is overfixation on devices. Parents reported using devices as a calming tool to help their children deal with overstimulation from social interactions. In this quote, P11 shared a similar story about using a device as a calming tool for their children in a crowded creamery. The next challenge is related to sheer mimicry by their children, where Petrie shared a scary incident with her daughter trying to imitate the violent act seen on YouTube, carrying a knife and trying to endanger her life. She told that this sheer mimicry is due to their difficulty of children with ASD in differentiating between reality and virtual world. Another challenge commonly reported by parents include increased social vulnerability for children with ASD, which can be explained by two factors. First, their difficulties with grasping social cues, where P15 expressed concern about lack of ability in his child to differentiate whether the person they are communicating with is an old creepy guy or a child. She further mentioned he is not social, and I feel like he is looking in the computer world to be social, but I can't trust his judgment. Second, the desire to fit in social settings, where the mom P20 shared an incident with her daughter giving off her game accessories just to make friends. Moving on next, let's talk about our second research questions, where parents discuss about the efficacy of our design in fostering open communication. In the context of YouTube, parents appreciated the informational support provided about the videos was by their children, where it can provide context for parents to clarify the situation in videos for their children and explain why certain things should not be imitated, as explained by P2. The informational support provided in the context of YouTube was also considered to help bridge communication gap between spouses, especially when there are differences in opinion. The parents emphasize that it is even more crucial for their children with ASD to keep things consistent in the household due to their inclination for routines. Parent also highlighted the values of proactive open communication about sensitive topics like how to identify bullying so that it can help guide their children in grasping social cues. In this regard, P18 shared an incident of bully with their children who fails to identify it. Next, we will talk about the efficacy of our design in instilling self-regulation. In the context of location, P7 says, it would be helpful for us to be able to show him this is not a safe zone or this is a safe zone could be helpful for him. She further explained that it is due to the visual cues that are provided by our designs as children with ASD are better at visual processing tasks. Similarly, in the context of Google Photos, parents talk about the role of our prompt as a neutral mediator to instill a sense of autonomy for their children. So it's not the parents who are teaching them, but rather it's prompt asking them, which is more structured and predictable for children with ASD. Finally, parents highlighted that the repetition frequency would contribute for their children to self-reflect on the rules and expectations, where P20 talk about the possibility of missing the prompt when it is shown only once, but when it is shown multiple times, it is less likely for their children to miss it. Next, we will discuss about the implication and possible future directions of this research. In our feature for tips for open communication, while parents appreciated the value of tips in helping guide their children, they also mentioned about the possibility of including more specific example scenarios to make it more concrete for the children with ASD. One possible way to do it is using social stories in the realm of parental control tool. So as shown in this email, social stories are individualized short story commonly used to help individuals with ASD to interpret and understand challenging social situations. So we can present our tips for open communication in similar form. In our design, parents emphasize that they need information about children's online activities due to increased vulnerability for children with ASD. In order to understand the privacy needs of children with ASD, we plan to conduct a field study with both parents and children and how we can get that balance. One of the potential ways to get that balance can be through the design of developmentally appropriate parental control tool. Finally, our findings point out that children with ASD require consistencies in parental regulation, which can be disturbed due to difference in opinion between parents, especially in the diverse household. This points to the potential future research directions focusing on reorienting parental control tools for co-parenting in the household. Thank you so much for listening to my presentation and feel free to contact me if you have any questions.